Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio. Your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Is it truly compassionate to stay with someone when in your heart you know you want to leave? You think about it all the time. How can I get out of here? How can I walk away from this? But you feel something, remorse, fear, guilt, and you don't go. How does this impact your life? We're going to talk about this today on our show, A Woman's Prerogative. I'm Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to our channels, USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Joining me is the star of our show. She is an eternity away and a day or later than we are here on the East Coast of the United States. Her name is Amanda Holmstrom, and she is the founder of Silver Rose & Co. Let's welcome her to the program. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Dr. Jacalyn. And hello to all our viewers.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. Amanda, where in the world are you today?
I am currently located in Papua, Indonesia. So it is Tuesday morning here, whereas for a lot of our viewers, it could still be Monday night. That blows the mind a little bit.
It surely does. Absolutely. Not everyone can say that they're where you are right now. So thank you for taking the time to be here and for joining me on this topic. What do you think of the topic? Can you be compassionate and still walk away?
Dr. Jacalyn, I have to say when I first got the topic, it resonated. This is such a real topic and it plays into almost all aspects of my life. It really hit a chord, and I cannot wait to discuss this with you.
I'm looking forward to it also. And one of the things I think is we all go through different stages of our life. And as we go through these stages, we typically will encounter some opportunities that may be pleasant, may be unpleasant. But at some point in our life, we know when we're someplace that we no longer want to be. And this happens all the time in relationships. It happens all the time in marriages. It happens all the time in businesses and careers where people want to leave, but the fear of what the repercussion will be is so much that they typically do not go. What are your thoughts about this? Do you think it makes sense to stay somewhere or stay in a relationship where you really don't want to be there anymore, but you are afraid of what's going to happen?
Well, and that brings up the whole, how many chances do you give as well, right? Because you're absolutely right. This goes across marriages and work, friendships, family. When you're in a relationship that is just not healthy anymore, how many chances do you give? How many times do you go, you know what, no, I'm just going to stay and I know why they're doing this and I understand where they're coming from. So you feel that compassion. But where is the boundary line, right? How many times do you have to be hurt before you're not the villain anymore when you walk away? Because that's what often happens, is that the person who walks away is often the one looked at as in the wrong, right? The wife who has taken one too many hits and has just gone, no, I'm done, is the one who is usually, people will go, oh, well, you know what? He was having a bad day. He could have got help, but you walked away and didn't give him the understanding, well, but how many chances does that person get? 2 chances, 3 chances? When is the boundary line? And that's not easy. But I think you're absolute. This compassion is a big thing. But what is compassion? And that's something I think we all struggle with. What does compassion mean to you, Dr. Jacalyn?
Well, to me, I think of compassion in a positive way. But I do think that when we are in situations, especially personal relationships, and it's not working out, we feel sorry for the other person. Or maybe we have children, we feel sorry for them. Or maybe we feel sorry for the in laws, or we feel sorry for the entire dynamic. I remember when I got divorced, we were friends with other couples and we would do things together. And I'll never forget, one of the male friends said to me after the fact, he said, I can't forgive you. He said, because you ruined everything for all of us. Now we can't all go to dinner together and we can't all go on trips together. And it was about 10 years later that I saw him at a restaurant, and he said, I really want to apologize to you. He said, I really overstepped and I had no idea what you were going through. And so I think that's the point, is that people get to be so judgmental that they don't actually think, what would it be like to be in that person's shoes? And then, Amanda, the other thing I think is that people have very strong religious beliefs and they take vows and they believe, you till death do you part. But the thing is that you could be dying a little every single day that you stay in a relationship that is either unhealthy because of abuse, or maybe you've just grown apart, or maybe you don't even like each other anymore.
You know what? I feel that 100%. I come from a divorced family. And honestly, I can 100% say that they were better off apart, because the marriage was toxic and it made it toxic for everyone involved. And it was better to walk away. But yes, I saw both sides, some of the comments that were made towards both my parents about giving up, and some people understood, and of course they would attack the other person. And people need to remember that there are always 2 sides to a story, and have compassion, which is a very big word, and people forget to do that. But they have to have compassion for both sides, because there's always 2 people or more involved in a situation. And it's that understanding that, yes, one side has to put down the boundaries, but having compassion for the other side as well, because they are also losing something, but supporting the person who has the strength to walk away and say, no, this is not working anymore. And that's not easy to do. That's a very hard thing. And I know I've wondered sometimes, can you feel compassion for the person and still not be angry if you have to walk away? I fight with that one in my personal life quite often. I've had to walk away from a few situations, and one of them still makes me very angry. The other one, though, it was the right thing to do. And I'm not angry at the person for creating the situation. And people have a hard time understanding that. But I wonder, Dr. Jacalyn, do you think that compassion and anger kind of go together in some ways in certain situations?
I think that anger is actually an emotion that is a level above hurt and pain. I think when we are hurt, it can turn into anger. But I think also that compassion has to start with compassion for ourselves, that we honor ourselves. and that there are so many rules that you're supposed to follow and so many comments and judgment from other people about what you're supposed to do. And it's that saying about living in a glass house, don't throw rocks if because everyone's going through something, and you might be friends with one side more than the other or related to one party, and you take that person's side. But it could be the absolute best thing for both people involved. But to outsiders, to the family members, to the friends, it's kind of like everything's going to change now. What are we going to do about the holidays? What are we going to do about the kids or the grandchildren? And people start getting really upset because then it becomes about them. So putting yourself first and saying, I have one life on this earth. I know people believe other things, but I believe we're here once, one and done. And how do you want to spend that time? And if you talk to someone who's in a relationship that isn't working, they typically will make up all kinds of excuses. Well, I can't leave now. Well, and it's always the kids are this age, the kids are that age, we're paying off the house. She or he can't make it without me. We're going to divide up the money. I'm too old. I've been in a relationship all these years, and now so it just goes on and on. There's never a good time. It's the same thing when you think about professional development. I have heard, Amanda, so many times people will say, I can't do something because I don't want to spend the money. But meanwhile, look at what else you're spending the money on every day. Like if you started actually tracking what you're spending the money on, and if you ask the universe, because it's something really important, I think the money will come. But if you're in a relationship where you are truly miserable, are you really showing compassion or are you showing pity? And are you losing respect for yourself in the process? And are you angry and resenting the other person because you're staying?
That is a very powerful question and a powerful thought, honestly. And most people don't think about the fact we're so used to giving compassion to other people, but nobody thinks about giving themselves compassion. They don't think that they deserve it, or they just don't think about it. Right? But they are involved in that situation and they need to have compassion for themselves for those little things that happen as well, right? You've had a bad day. You come home in a bad mood, you know that things are going rough, and people will beat themselves up and go, oh, well, you know what? I shouldn't have done this and I shouldn't have done that. But have a little bit of compassion for yourself and go, okay, I did my best. This didn't happen because of my bad day. It didn't happen because of this. It just was a bad day. I'm going to reward myself. I'm going to have a bath. I'm going to allow myself to have that glass of wine or a nice cup of tea. And I'm going to have compassion and allow myself to have some quiet time because I made it through my day. Or I am estranged from both of my parents, unfortunately. And they both happened at different times. With my father, it was a mutual decision. We had a last meeting, took my kids for a visit on one of our trips home in the summer. And I remember at the end of the visit, I went, this was nice. We should do it more often. We should stay in touch more. And his comeback at me was, well, I'm busy, but you're welcome to stay in touch. And I remember that shocked me a little bit. And my comeback to him was, well, we're busy as well. We both work. We have 3 children. And it was the wrong way to come back. It wasn't helping the situation. I can fully admit that. But I did try for a year to send messages, and then I just went, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And we haven't spoken since. That was almost 17 years ago now. And I remember about a year after that, even, I had to sit down and actually think it through, because I still was holding on to a lot of anger over the situation and hurt. And I had to realize that it wasn't about just me. There was two of us in that situation, and I had to allow myself to have that compassion for both sides, but for myself. And that was a huge moment where I was able to just go, you know what? I'm not angry anymore. I'm not hurt. It happened for a reason, and I'm sorry for it to happen. But I had some compassion because it was a loss. And the moment I allowed myself to have the compassion for myself, it put a whole new perspective on the situation. Have you ever had that?
Yes. First, I want to just congratulate you for your transparency and for being honest and on television sharing that story, because that's not an easy thing to do. It's not that easy to look back in the past, and brings up a lot of memories and feelings. And what you shared, it sounded like he said, you can stay in touch. So he basically told you then he was not staying in touch. And so when someone shares that kind of information, it's almost hard to process, especially a parent. It's kind of like, wait, what are they saying? And meanwhile, it would have been more direct if he just said, listen, this is too much for me. I've got a lot going on in my life. I'm overwhelmed with emotions. Who knows what it was that he was feeling? But he never told you what he was feeling. And so he basically just ghosted you. And people do that all the time because they don't want to let the person know this relationship is not going to be something that I can actively participate in. And especially when it comes from a family member, it's like, isn't that your role? Isn't that part of what your responsibility is? And at the same time, if someone is sharing that, you can have compassion and grace, but that doesn't mean that you have to spend the rest of your life trying to make that situation work, because it has to be both people. And with your case, having children, that's a whole other situation. It's kind of like, well, how do you explain to them that that he doesn't want to be involved in their lives? That's a tough one, but it goes back to him. And whatever it is, you may never know. And that again that's challenging to try to deal with. I know for me, when I was taking care of my mother and she had dementia, it was during the pandemic, and she and I were alone in the house, and I started this business. And the people that I had in my life for so long, they just ditched me. Basically, people didn't want to hear, because I wasn't living nearby. I couldn't go anywhere when the pandemic was over. I couldn't go anywhere because I was running this business. I was taking care of my mother. And so a lot of people just weren't interested in being friends with me anymore. And so I just gave myself compassion and said, everyone comes in and out of our life for a reason. But when it's a parent, that is a very difficult situation to deal with. So I'm really sorry that you had to deal with it, and you're still dealing with it.
I thank you very much. That means a lot. I honestly look at it, it was another lesson to learn, and I wish him absolutely no ill will, and I wish him well. Unfortunately, our paths just diverged, and they weren't going along the same path anymore. And they might come back one day. Who knows? And if that day ever comes, I'll have to make that decision of, do we give another chance? And how many chances do you give? And I've had that discussion with my children as well. When it came time to have to say, no, this next visit, we will not be seeing Grandpa, I had to say, Grandpa has things going on in his life, and unfortunately, we won't be able to see him. He still loves you, which he does. I'm positive he still loves all of us. It was just he was not able to be there at that time. And I've always told my kids that if they want to reach out, they are more than welcome, and I will support that. But it has to be their choice.
Well, I honor how you've handled that, because you could have handled it and said, he's this. Don't you dare contact him. I don't want to have anything. Because sometimes people do that. I know situations where one of the parents will actually put the children against the other parent or the grandparents and threaten them that if you have anything to do with this person, then you are out of my life. I'm not going to babysit. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And it causes a huge divide. So I think when we're thinking about compassion in each situation, it makes sense to have a conversation. Because if the other person doesn't know anything, and this happens a lot, Amanda, by the way, let's say you're in a marriage and the person's really unhappy, but they never communicate that specifically to their spouse. They're trying to show them in every way possible, to dropping clues, maybe picking fights. There's all kinds of ways that people can do this. And the other person's just not getting it. And so then you decide to leave, and the person's in a complete state of shock. I didn't even know you were unhappy, because you were giving clues, but you weren't being direct. And so what I would recommend in any situation is that you have the conversation, which is not an easy conversation. And the conversation is, I want you to know this has nothing to do with you. It's really about me, and I've outgrown this relationship. What are you talking about? What are you, crazy? You're going to get some kind of feedback, but you don't have to defend yourself. It's basically, I want you to be happy too. And I know I'm not the person to fill this role anymore. And there's someone else out there for you. And by me staying, I'm preventing you from being with the person you're meant to be with. And that is not an easy thing to say. And it's not an easy thing to believe. And it's not an easy thing to actually take action on. But at least show the other person you have respect for them. I've heard so many stories, and it's happened to me, where you're in a relationship with someone and they just disappear. They just stop calling. So I've never been one to chase after. I've never one to make phone calls. Although when I was younger, yes, I would make a zillion phone calls. I'd call the police. I'd call like the hospital, is so-and-so there. And basically the person just wasn't into me anymore. But they didn't tell me. And so have the respect for yourself to actually tell the other person. You don't have to go into the gory details, but you can say, I've really enjoyed this relationship, or I really enjoyed working at this organization. And I know my path is taking me in a different direction. You don't have to belittle anyone. You don't have to insult anyone, but you can say basically, this doesn't feel like a good fit anymore. And I think there's probably someone else who might be a better fit. So I just wanted to give you the respect of telling you that.
I love that. And I absolutely agree with you about talking. You have to talk. You have to communicate. Because I think a big part of compassion in any stage, towards yourself or towards somebody, but you can't have compassion if you don't understand. And you can't understand unless you communicate. And I know that is something that my husband and I have struggled with. We've been married now 26 years, and communication is still not one of our strongest areas, though we do work on it quite a bit. And you go through those transition stages in any relationship, whether it be family or friendships, work, because we're constantly growing, we're constantly changing. And I know some of those key transition times is when kids are young, big job changes, midlife is a huge one, empty nesting. And that's the stage my husband and I have just started. And every step of the way, we've had to have a conversation. And we've had to decide, well, are we still going along the same path? Or are we diverging? Are we taking two separate paths now? And every time we've come back and said, no, you know what? We're stronger together. We're going to make this work, and we grow together. I do admit that this empty nesting one is probably our hardest transition so far, and we're struggling. but that's because our communication hasn't been great. I travel a lot, and he works very long hours in this current posting. So we don't have a lot of time to sit down and have that communication so that we can understand and we can have compassion for each other's situations so that we can grow from that. So you're absolutely right. It is a very difficult area of any situation to have. And I respect those people who can have those discussions and go, okay, I still love you. I still respect you, but we are going our separate ways. Because that is a hard thing to, not that we're there yet. I'm not, and I hope Brian's not watching this and thinking that's where I'm leading him towards. But that's not an easy decision to make when you have a history.
It's very true.
What you said was very, very true.
I personally, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of boos for this, but I personally, at this stage of my life, I don't believe in marriage. I would never get married again. And so I have a lot of respect for people who are married, who figure out ways to make it work. But I don't know that we were actually, I know the Bible and everything else, but I just think as human beings, I don't know that we were actually meant to be with one person through our whole life. Because if you think about it, one person's growing more than the other person's growing. Can you grow at the same pace? Can you have respect for the other person when maybe they're working on their figure, or they're working on the bank account, or they're working long hours and they're not home? And we could go on and on. And I think it takes a tremendous amount of trust, respect, and communication. And so I congratulate you for 26 years of marriage. I think that is incredible. I know my own parents were married, I think it was 54 years. 54 years. And so that's really amazing. And everyone in my family is married and has been married for a long time. I'm the only one. I'm the outlier. But I think when you have that conversation with someone, make sure you set a boundary, because if the person is having a bad day, if the person worked 12 hours and now they came home, if they are on a call with someone and you just barge in and go, we have to talk, that isn't going to help the situation. So you basically have to set a time and a day to have a conversation, and not something threatening. People don't like that. Well, I really need to talk to you, and we need to do it as soon as possible. No one's going to respond too well with threats. So it's basically, I'd really love to just talk about our relationship. Now, that can be something that is frightening to someone else. Oh, now here we go. This is going to be a whole BI, what session. So you want to frame it up in a respectful manner that shows the person that you're not going to be calling them out on the carpet, ripping them apart, just explaining to them how it is you feel. And by the way, that doesn't mean they have to be happy about it. That doesn't mean that they have to be, oh, well, congratulations for you for deciding to leave me. That's beautiful news. Or if you're thinking about it, it could be an opening for you to take a next step. And the next step, maybe it's counseling, maybe it's therapy, maybe it's, people will always say this part, and I've mentioned this before, well, we really need to go on vacation. You go on vacation and you have the same problems, the same challenges that you had before you left. And now you drop 5,000, 10,000, however much money, and you're fighting and you're not getting along. And the whole time you're like, I wish I was here with someone else. So that is not the answer. The answer is maybe some quiet time, maybe some soul searching, maybe some prayer, some meditation, and looking at what is it you really want. And is it actually that it is the other person who's not a good fit, or are you really unhappy with yourself? And maybe you have work to do. So I'm just using you and the collective you. What are your thoughts about that?
First off, I think it takes an incredibly strong person to be able to know that they don't want to be married and that they can be on their own. That's not easy. So I respect you. You are an amazing person, and I've said this before. So I think you're incredibly strong, And I respect that you know yourself enough to know that you're okay on your own. That's a huge thing.
Thank you.
I like how you were saying that be careful how you approach somebody, right? I know my trigger words. If somebody goes, "We need to talk," I instantly go, "Oh no, what did I do? What did I say?" My comeback these days, if someone says, "We need to talk," is, "I didn't do it. I didn't say it. I wasn't even in the country."
I love that. That's
And then in
terrific.
my brain is just going, okay, where was I on this day? What did I? Nope. That is a trigger phrase for me, right? And people have had to learn that. Though I do think my kids use it sometimes just to see how mom's going to go, nope, I didn't do it. But it is all about communication. And I don't think people realize how much, but you're absolutely right on setting those boundaries as well. Yes, you have to have a conversation and you have to communicate. But as you said, you have to be very aware of what is going on. If they're in that phone call, no, you're not going to just go in and go, okay, I need to talk to you right now. And they go, no, put it down. We need to talk, right? Because they're not going to react well. Or if they come home in a bad mood, and this goes for anyone, not just a spouse, this is a family member or a friend, right? If you just barge into a friend's house and go, oh, we need to talk, and they've had a bad day, they're not going to be in the mood. And as silly as it sounds, sometimes, you know what? Treat that conversation like a business meeting. Go, okay, we need to discuss a few things. When would be a good time? And even make meeting notes. Go, okay, this is our topics for today. And at the end, we have any other business, right? And actually make the time to discuss it. I know that sounds silly, but sometimes in today's world, it is so busy that you forget you need to make the time to talk so that you can understand what the other person's going through. They can understand you. You make it a safe circle. And I've done that with friends as well, right? They'll go, oh, we need to talk about something. And I instantly, again, I go, okay. And they go, no, it's not bad. And I'm going, okay, can we phrase it a different way? Would you like to have a cup of tea? And we're going to sit down and talk. And they'll go, well, something was said. And you go, okay, let's look at that. You're already feeling a little bit of compassion for them. So you're going to be more open to having a conversation, which is going to help fix the situation if something has arisen. Because if you're not feeling anything towards them other than anger or fear that you've done something, the situation's not going to work itself out.
Very true. Very true. I think also something to the point you just made, I think it's important not to set up an ambush. So if you don't give the person any idea what it's about, and then you actually sit down to have the conversation, and then you just let them have it, you just start pummeling them with, and now what are they going to think? Anytime that you want to have a conversation with them, you want to rip them apart. Nobody wants to be ripped apart, by the way. And all of us have our shortcomings. All of us can do better in certain areas. So it's really important to maintain that sense of respect. Because if you've ever been in a situation where someone is losing it, they're screaming and yelling, and you don't do anything, you just watch it unfold, you can see the person is having a meltdown in front of you, and you don't engage. And by the time they're finished, they're almost in tears sometimes because they've had so much anger. And so you do not engage, and you just look at them and you think, I'm showing you compassion right now because I know one day you're going to be feeling a negative way about the fact that you just completely lost control of your emotions. So I think we can honor one another by setting a boundary, asking permission. I'd really love some time to chat with you about a few things. How would tomorrow be? Well, tomorrow I'm doing this project. And then we get anxious. Well, what about Wednesday? What about Thursday? The person can give you some options of when it might work for them, because that's when they're going to be in the right mindset to hear information. I remember when I was married, I had the ability, I was working, of course, and I had the ability to come home and make dinner. And when my husband would walk in the door, I was like, "Oh, how's your day? What's going on?" Like, blah, 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 blah. And what I didn't realize was he was just trying to process what had just happened from his work. And so we ended up going to counseling. And what I found out was, and I think this is good for information for anyone, is he needed 30 minutes by himself when he came home to wind down from the day. And I was thinking that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't interesting enough. And I've been sitting here and I made this dinner and I got all dressed up. It had nothing to do with me. He just needed to process his emotions. And so I think that that's a good rule of thumb. I've always remembered that you don't know when someone walks in the door what it is they've been going through, and they don't know what you've been going through. So have a conversation about it. When you come home from work, would you like some time? Do you feel you need some time to decompress? Or can I talk to you about what I've been doing? Because what I've heard people, specifically a lot of the stay-at-home people who are running a household or taking care of children, there's a lot of anger. I've been here all day taking care of this, while you're out doing God knows whatever you're doing. And meanwhile, you're doing your work. You're dealing with clients. But it seems like you're living some glamorous life because you're outside of the house and the person is in the house.
You know what? I understand that situation 100%. I've had the opportunity to work from home. I ran my own daycare for a number of years from my home. And when the kids were really young, I was able to stay home with them because of that. And it is tough, right? I've had that conversation in my household quite often where the moment he comes home from work, I'm instantly going, "Oh, how was your day? Oh, great. Did you know this happened today?" I don't even give him the chance to answer. And I do remember those days. And I remember him saying that same thing, is that he just wants 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes just to decompress, change his clothes, and kind of go through his head so he can close his day down. And yes, we had those same conversations where I go, "Oh, but I've been home all day by myself and the kids have been, it's your turn." And I had to take that step back and we had to have that conversation. And he had to understand as well, I wasn't coming at it from attacking him because I didn't understand that he was out at work. It was that I was at home all day with my kids and other people's kids, and I loved my job. But I craved adult conversation.
It's understandable.
Right? I was dealing with newborns to 5-year-olds all day. And I loved our conversations and our crafts and our lessons. But I missed having adult interaction. And the moment he would come in, "Oh, look, it's another adult." And you could get so excited. But you forget that they have to close down as well. Everyone has their own systems. And that's hard for people to understand, right? Until you discuss it. And that was one of those conversations we had to have so that we could understand where each other were coming from. I've had it with friends as well, right? And I remember in high school having to have that discussion with somebody who school wasn't the most important thing for them. They wanted to go out all the time. They wanted to go to parties. I wanted to study. And I always was a little more quiet. If I could have a quiet hour or two to myself just to read, have a cup of tea and read, I was the happiest person on the planet. And we had to have that conversation. I'm still friends with this person because we were able to talk about our differences and we were able to compromise. Because of that, I didn't realize what was going on at home for this person was the situation. So we were able to compromise more, that they actually spent more time at my house, just having quiet time. We'd watch a movie, we'd do something. And every once in a while we would just go out on a Friday night and get a pizza or nachos or something. So we found a compromise and compassion for each other's situations by having that conversation.
What a beautiful way to wrap up this conversation today. Having compassion for yourself, having compassion for other people, and realizing you don't know what is going on in someone else's life, and they don't know what's going on in your life. So if someone says to you, I've decided to leave, I've decided to quit, I've decided whatever it might be, before you jump to some kind of conclusions and start using, what are you, an idiot? Are you a loser? Do you realize what you're giving up? You're not in that position and they're not in your position. So show some love and some compassion and some support, because people remember that. They remember the people who turned on them, and they remember the people who supported them. Amanda, what is it you can do for our audience, and how do people find out more?
Well, I am Amanda Holmstrom, and I am the founder and director of Silver Rose & Co. We offer educational programs for children to learn life skills and confidence skills. But alongside that, I'm also creating and writing my first children's book. It'll be a sleepover at Grandma and Grandpa's, and it's about two girls who have a sleepover for the weekend at their grandparents'. And there'll be gardening and tea time, but also a lot of love. And this will be this project. I am very much looking forward to sharing it. And you'll be among the first to see the cover reveal in September. So alongside that, please reach out to me at my website, Silver Rose & Co., and reach out to me on LinkedIn under Amanda Holmstrom. You can also find Silver Rose & Co. on Facebook and Instagram. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, everyone. And as we close out our chapter for today, I want to just leave everyone with something that my father used to say to me. We would be sitting having a conversation, and some boy would be calling me. I'd be like, Dad, so-and-so's calling me. I have to answer the call. And my dad would say, no, you're having a conversation right now with me. People call us when it's convenient for them. So that doesn't mean that we have to jump anytime someone says, I need to speak with you. We have to set boundaries. And the boundaries are, if you're already doing something, if you're involved in something, meaning you're working on something, you're listening to something, you're reading something, you cannot be available to have a conversation about something else. And if you are spending your life on the phone and you're talking to people, you're not paying attention. So these kinds of conversations, when it comes to being compassionate and being able to walk away, really have a lot to do with, are you showing respect for the other person? Are you asking for time where you can discuss your feelings, and that it's not an ambush? You're not insulting someone. You're not putting someone down. You're basically just saying, this is how I'm feeling. And I don't expect you to try to understand. I'm just telling you where I am, and can we work on it from here? What are your thoughts? It's open-ended. So think about that as you go forward. And Amanda and I will be returning next week. And you can always go over to our playlist on our YouTube channels, which are USA Global TV and Radio and Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Thank you for the comments today. We don't have time to get to them, but if you could subscribe to our channels, we would really appreciate it. All right, as we close out, we're going to see a promotional message from Tracy Cram-Perkins, who is the author of Dementia Home Care Before, During, and After. Let's take a look. USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents Tracy Cram-Perkins, a dementia caregiving survivor teaching how to balance care with peace of mind. #1 resource for dementia caregivers. It's the book Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. Over 17,000 copies sold of this must-have guide. And now a testimonial from Tracy Smith.
If I was to describe this book to someone who was going through a similar situation, I would underscore how important it is to have some sort of a tool or a guidebook to help you through certain stages. And there's so many, it's such an unknown topic to the average person. And to have this as a reference is essential. It's going to help you get through it personally, as well as help your loved one manage.
To learn more, go to TracyCramPerkins.com. Tracy Cram Perkins is an award-winning author. She's also the host of Dementia Home Care television show. Watch it here on USA Global TV and Radio.
Which of these 5 statements sounds mostly like you? 1. I often wake up in the middle of the night worrying about my future. 2. I'm angry or resentful towards a specific person. 3. I have anxious, obsessive, compulsive thoughts throughout the day. 4. I have an addiction like smoking, drinking, shopping, sugar, or social media. And 5. I feel that I'm wasting away my life. Hello, I'm Dr. Alkistis Agio, and for over 25 years, I've been coaching and training people from all over the world to transform their fears, insecurities, anxiety, and anger into mental and emotional freedom. I'm confident that my simple 3-step method based on Greek philosophy can help you to transform into the joyful, confident, free human being that you deserve to be. I want to invite you to join my weekly online coaching group to finally get the results that you want. Look, you've tried it alone so far and you've had some okay results, but let's face it, you're still feeling stuck right now, spinning your wheels. Einstein said that insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Now, unless you realize this as a fact, that you are a prisoner of your own mind, you can't move forward. I'm here to support you, as well as the whole community that we are co-creating. Stop feeling stuck. Stop feeling depressed. You don't have to do it alone, and alone isn't working anyway. Sign up today and I'll meet you on the inside of our amazing weekly group call. I guarantee that you'll make progress from the very first session.
I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Alkistis Agio. I have her book right here. It's actually personally signed for me. I met her in Greece. And by the way, that video that she did is at her home on the Aegean Sea. It is quite impressive. And I'm actually going to be seeing her in September. So please do reach out to her. She's an outstanding coach. And I do highly recommend this book. The Agio Method with the 3 steps is in here, from fear to freedom. So we'll see you again next time. Thank you again for being here. We appreciate all of you. And remember, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Bye.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. Follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.